It's been nearly 5 weeks since Americans went to the polls in the midterm elections. In North Carolina, not only is it not over, though, they may very well have to do it all over again in one race. Here's where things stand right now in the state's 9th congressional district. Republican Mark Harris, he's ahead by 905 votes over Democrat Dan McCready. But that is nowhere near the end of the story. The State Board of Elections is investigating allegations of election fraud focused on a whole lot of questionable absentee ballots. And if they find evidence of misconduct, they can order another election. But one thing we know right now is it is a mess. Joining me right now is Dallas Woodhouse. He's the executive director of the North Carolina Republican Party. Dallas, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Sure.
What is the latest that you're hearing on when the state's going to have a final word here from the State Board of Elections?
Well, we don't exactly know. We think there'll be a public hearing here in the next couple of weeks, probably around December 20th, somewhere in that range. That will be the first time that we hear, some detailed information about the actual allegations. I have a column out this morning just published praising the media for bringing sunlight and disinfectant to an issue that has plagued North Carolina for well over a decade. We've had a systematic failure to address this between 3 different administrations of governors, many boards of elections, state and local prosecutors. That systematic failure includes us. It includes the other party. And I really think the question of who's going to be seated in the 9th District is now a secondary question of having to root out this systematic failure and cultural political corruption in the southeastern part of our state, which is really a scourge on our democracy.
Well, look, I mean, it is a huge problem if they find out where kind of the evidence seems to be poor right now. That's for sure. But in the most immediate, you do need to figure out what's going
and disgusting.
In the most immediate, though, you do need to figure out what's going to happen with this seat, right? I mean, you need to seat somebody and send him to Congress. You told my colleague Drew Griffin that when you saw his piece about these strange things going on with the absentee ballots, and the stories that people were telling him, that made you throw up. It makes me wonder then, if what we know already made you sick to your stomach, why not just call for a do-over right now instead of even waiting for the Board of Elections?
Well, because that would not match the legal standard. Remember that 286,000 people cast ballots that are not in question. Most of those people would be disenfranchised in a special election, which would only see about 25 to 40,000 people vote. So as good as the media reports are, we need to see the actual evidence from investigators. And if it rises to a level that the evidence shows that there needs to be a new election, we, of course, will not oppose that at all.
If the Board of Elections does order a do-over because of misconduct, is the state Republican Party going to continue to support Mark Harris?
The North Carolina Republican Party will, as it's obligated to do, support the candidate selected by our voters or by our executive committee in the 9th Congressional District. And by the way, I know Mr. Harris personally. I believe in him. It is hard for me to conceive a situation that he was a part of this or knew anything. Most of the time, Kate, when people say, I can't see it, I couldn't see it, I literally could not see it. My mind can't get around on that. I hope
hear
I'm
you,
not
but
wrong.
Now it just comes out that $34,000 is how much Harris's campaign still owes that company that contracted with the guy at the center of all of this, and it's not for nothing for quote-unquote reimbursement payment for Bladen County.
I think the key part of that filing is they did not, in fact, pay that.
But they owe it. They knew it was happening.
Well, they may have owed it for what they believed was legitimate activities and are not going to pay for activities they now know may be questionable.
Do you trust that Harris had no part of this?
I believe that. I believe it in my heart.
All right, we will see what comes forward from the State Board of Elections. Dallas, thanks for coming on.